A murder trial is underway for the man accused of killing a Texas women's university student.
The 24-year-old woman who was found dismembered, her body was partially burned.
Nothing happens in Grapevine. Nothing, except for what he did.
Imagine being a junior at university, looking for a part-time job at a pub. Sounds adventurous? Well, not if you run into the wrong person, as you are about to see in the tragic story we will cover today. It is what happened to Jackie Vandagriff, a 24-year-old health and wellness student at the Texas Women's University in Denton, Texas, whose mutilated remains were found in a park early in the morning on September 14, 2016. The man she encountered that night, Charles Bryant, was a sadistic psychopath seeking vengeance, and Vandagriff spent her last moments being brutally tortured. According to official records, after Vandagriff was last seen, her cell phone began pinging towers south of Denton. The last ping came in around 1:30 a.m., near Bryant's home in the 14,000 block of Sandhills Drive in Hazlitt, about 20 miles west of where Vandagriff's body was found. The city of Denton is located in the northwestern portion of the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area, and Denton has a good connection to larger cities, while simultaneously having easy access to the great Texan countryside. The population is around 140,000 residents. TWU, or Texas Women's University campus Jackie was living and studying in, has over 13,000 residents. This is the case of Jackie Vandagriff. Welcome back to True Crime Files. Friends and family remember her as a loving and compassionate person who went out of her way to help others. We send our condolences to all those who knew and loved Jackie. Jackie Vandagriff was born in Carrollton, Texas, on March 4, 1992, the youngest of two girls. She grew up in Frisco and the Colony, Texas. Jackie was a big fan of Thomas the Tank Engine as a kid, and she used to love reenacting the shows. She graduated from Wakeland High School in Frisco, Texas, and went to Paul Mitchell School for Cosmetology to become a licensed esthetician. A close friend of Vandagriff, Jackie Tunn, said, "Jackie was an extremely gregarious person. Whenever she went out, she would make friends with everyone." On the night of September 13, 2016, Jackie was headed to a bar called Fry Street Public House, located across the street from the University of North Texas in Denton, in search of work. The surveillance video shows she was approached by Charles Bryant, a 29-year-old bartender and personal trainer. They quickly hit it off and spent time getting acquainted. Around 9 p.m., Vandagriff and Bryant left the bar together, got into Bryant's car, and drove to another bar where they continued their night out. According to video surveillance, they exited the bar around 11 p.m. The next morning, workers in the city of Grapevine were notified that there was smoke coming from Acorn Woods Park. The maintenance crew quickly drove there and discovered the remains of human body parts inside of a child's plastic wading pool that was completely burned. Police confirmed that the remains belonged to a woman who was most likely murdered brutally. It was September 14th, 2016, early in the morning, when John Luna, a captain with the Grapevine Police Department, responded to a call about a horrendous discovery at Grapevine Lake. This is what Captain John Luna described witnessing at the scene. Just off of the worn footpath, you have an area that's pretty well overgrown with weeds, but you can clearly see a small area that was burned just beyond where I'm standing. There was a body that was obviously charred. It had been set on fire. The body, found inside a blue rubber pool, was so badly damaged that police were struggling to determine the most basic facts about the victim. Captain John Luna also said they didn't know if that was an adult or a child, male or female. That same day, Texas Women's University issued a report that a junior student was missing. The police compared the fingerprints from the remains to those of a reported missing student and found the person who was murdered was in fact Jackie Vandagriff. The medical professionals determined multiple stab wounds in Jackie's midsection that were inflicted by the attacker while she was alive. The amount of blood around the head was another proof of Jackie suffering strong force trauma to her head before she died. The killer tried to hide the evidence by dismembering the body, but the terrifying story of what happened could not be concealed. Due to the amount of bruising around Jackie's neck, strangulation was ruled as the official cause of death, but there is more to the horror of what happened to her that night. Her heart had been removed from her chest, and it is unknown whether it was an act of a serial killer in the making. But the gruesome action could have also pointed to unrequited love, that will be later recognized as another warning sign in the killer's troubled past. Detectives were then determined to find out what happened to Vandagriff in the period between leaving the Fry Street public house and the murder in the park. They eventually discovered she and Bryant were hanging out with a group of friends at another bar where Jackie was last seen by other people. A female who was at the bar that night remembered Bryant, who gave her his business card once he heard she was interested in fitness, and the detectives soon had their next lead. It also became clear Bryant had previous issues with the law. So who really was Charles Dean Bryant? When asked about Bryant's visits to the gym, Jin Yu Frey, a UFC professional fighter, said, "Every now and then, this random man would show up, and I don't know if anyone really knew who he was or where he trained. It was just an open mat." Frey also described Bryant as athletic-looking, with a beautiful body and being in great form. The drama began when Bryant started dating 11 years younger Caitlin Mathis, who was working as a server at Buffalo Wild Wings in Grapevine, Texas, and had just graduated from high school. She was 18 years old when she first met Bryant in June of 2016. Mathis described Bryant as charming, smooth, and like the kind of guy that has his life together. Caitlin was initially swept off her feet, but soon started noticing Bryant's troubling nature, and she knew she needed to leave the relationship. It was only once they got to know each other a bit more that Caitlin noticed Bryant was narcissistic and controlling. Looking back at Bryant's dating history, it was full of similar types of relationships. The women in his life would initially fall for the role of the ideal boyfriend he was playing, but as soon as they would perceive the darker, more manipulative side of his personality, the romance would end. As Mathis started the semester at the University of North Texas in Denton, she decided to leave Bryant, but he didn't take the news too well. He considered her his property in a way and believed she should be either his or no one's. He made it a mission to get her back at any cost and soon began stalking her at the University of North Texas, where she was attending classes every day. For one of their monthly anniversaries, Bryant found himself in front of Caitlin's room with a bouquet of flowers and a 2-page letter. Terrified, she hid in her roommate's closet and called 911, and Bryant was quickly arrested. The campus police discovered Bryant jogging on campus 10 minutes later and arrested him for trespassing. He contacted Caitlin again, this time by email, saying, "Here I am devastated and with a criminal record for delivering the girl I love flowers." Bryant overstepped the boundaries of the law by stalking Mathis and was soon prohibited from coming near the campus, but it didn't stop him from pursuing his obsession. This was a guy who was indifferent to the regulations or the authorities' efforts to protect students on campus because he was determined to break them. He also started following Caitlin when she was leaving for work, and she had to change jobs to ensure her own safety. Bryant turned up on Caitlin's first day of work at a restaurant on August 31st, 2016. Her colleagues informed her that Charles had also been at the restaurant the day before, looking for her. It is only when Mathis realized Bryant wasn't planning to stop controlling her life that she firmly decided to get a restraining order. But the restraining order didn't stop him either. Fast forward to September, Bryant appears at Caitlin's door. She is terrified and calls 911. The police arrest him, but Bryant pays the bail and gets released. It was only 6 days later that Jackie Vandagriff met the exact same guy in the Fry Street public house. The bar was located directly across the street from the college Caitlin was attending, and Caitlin would often go there too. Bryant was reported violating the restraining order once again by contacting Caitlin from fake social media accounts after the night of Vandagriff's murder. Previous problems with the law made Bryant an adequate suspect for Jackie Vandagriff's murder, but the police didn't have enough evidence to arrest him right away. While Bryant was talking to detectives, he claimed he never even met Vandagriff. The detectives then showed him the surveillance footage, and Bryant changed his statement and said he and Jackie had a couple of drinks in the bar and soon went their separate ways. The police got a search warrant for Bryant's home and collected numerous items, such as a hacksaw, a hunting knife, a stun gun, a bone fragment, ammo, and so on, some of which it was later revealed had Jackie's DNA. They also found Bryant kept a kiddie pool in front of his house earlier. Only hours upon meeting Bryant, Vandagriff was dead, but how she died and why were questions without answers until Ranger Holland joined the investigation. Texas Ranger Jim Holland was now leading the interrogation and profiling Bryant. Holland is an expert in high-profile murder cases across the country and specializes in psychopathic and sociopathic crimes for the Texas State Police. He developed his own type of interview techniques for cold-blooded killers who in usual circumstances avoid investigators' questions. Holland was brought in after the local police hit a wall in terms of finding new evidence. Bryant was described by police as showing no remorse and being eerily calm as police questioned him, and displaying extreme antisocial behavior. Holland described his personalized technique in the following way. I think of it almost like mind-bending. You're dealing with someone who's controlling, manipulative, and is trying to almost impress their will upon you. They feel that, at the end of the day, they can change your mind. And what you're basically doing is stepping in the back door of their mind and steering them without them knowing it. Bryant was faced with newly discovered evidence, such as security footage from a store in which he was purchasing a shovel early in the morning on September 14th. Bryant said at one point that he must have killed Jackie, but couldn't recall the details. Holland led Bryant through the labyrinth of memory, and Bryant eventually started talking about what happened during the night of the murder, from his perspective at least. He claimed he and Jackie were having intercourse in his car, and she insisted that Bryant should place a zip tie around her neck to spice up the atmosphere. But things got out of control. He said he panicked after what he described as an accident, but instead of calling 911, he decided to dismember Vandagriff's body, place it in trash bags, and burn the remains in the rubber pool he was keeping in front of his house. Bryant explained his bizarre actions by being in a drunk state and not thinking clearly. Ranger Holland's conclusion was that Bryant was taking some twisted pleasure in cutting up his victim, and that he was not only a killer, but also a serial killer in the making. He also knew Bryant's story of the sexual encounter in the car was most likely made up, as there was no evidence the two of them were sleeping together, and Bryant was probably trying to distract the investigation from the fact there was Vandagriff's DNA on the zip tie. Holland investigated hundreds of murders during his career in law enforcement, spanning over more than 2 decades. Vandagriff's case stood out to him not only because it was a particularly gruesome crime scene with the body dismembered and burned, but it was also unsophisticated. The ranger described the murder as having all the hallmarks of a serial killer's first victim. Holland explained, oftentimes, if you can find the initial murder that a serial killer committed, you'll find a disheveled crime scene. They make mistakes. It's their first time. There's no doubt in my mind that if Bryant had not been arrested by the Grapevine Police Department, he would have continued to kill, and he would have gotten better. And I think as he got better and better, it would have been almost impossible to catch him. A lot of these people actually will tell you. They want to tell someone. Roger Holland proceeded to ask Bryant questions that could finally get him to confess what happened. Holland pointed out the resemblance between Jackie and Bryant's former girlfriend, Caitlin, and asked whether Bryant took out the aggression he was feeling towards her on the girl he met at the bar on the night of the murder. Bryant disagreed with the resemblance but was clearly shaken by Holland's conclusion. Holland and his crew were now certain Bryant was the main suspect they were looking for, and he was placed under arrest. He pleaded not guilty and was awaiting trial. Besides murder charges, Bryant was also facing charges for the possession of child pornography that he kept on his phone, which had yet to go to court. The murder trial started in April of 2018. The jury found Bryant guilty of murder and evidence tampering. Glynis McGinty, defending lawyer, argued that Vandagriff died while having consensual intercourse in a car, during which a plastic tie was placed around her neck, causing asphyxiation. The prosecution lawyer, Lucas Allen, told the court, "Why cut out the heart? What does it have to do with disposing of a body? He cut her heart out. I want that image to sink in." Vandagriff's purse, as well as pocketbook, was later found in the rubbish near Bryant's home. Bryant, now a convicted murderer, received a life sentence with an additional 20 years and will be eligible for parole in 2048. He tried appealing his sentence and claiming his guilt hadn't been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, but the court ruled that Bryant intentionally caused the death of Jacqueline Vandagriff and committed homicidal violence. The indictment alleged that he killed and caused serious bodily injury to Jacqueline Vandagriff using a zip tie, a knife or machete, and an unknown object. If this is not enough to question the gruesome reality of the world we live in, here are the disturbing details that occurred after the murder. Bryant's ex-girlfriend, Caitlin, revealed that she had received a friend request from Jackie Vandagriff's phone number the day after she was murdered. Jackie, the owner of the number, could not have sent the request herself because she was no longer alive on that date. And the only logical explanation is that Bryant used the identity and the phone of the victim he just dismembered to get in contact with his ex-girlfriend. And there is more. Bryant sent Caitlin photographs of Grapevine Lake, which authorities believe he took the night of the murder, and a message was posted on Jackie's social media the day after she was murdered, saying, "Never knew I could feel like this." Though unconfirmed, the message, just like the friend request in the photo, was probably sent by the murderer. As for Bryant's ex-girlfriend, Caitlin Mathis, aside from being lucky to be alive, she is still struggling with the guilt that she couldn't warn Vandagriff about Bryant's destructive behavior before it was too late. She said, "I just wish I could take that pain away from them. I look back at it now, and I'm extremely thankful to be here. There's a reason I'm here." And her heart breaks for the Vandagriff family, whose grief is beyond comprehension. In one interview, she said she is hoping Bryant would get a death sentence because she fears he would go after her if he ever gets released. The CBS show 48 Hours has an episode that includes the first recorded television interview with Bryant's ex-girlfriend Caitlin, and poses the question of whether Vandagriff was targeted because she and Mathis resembled each other. Mathis said in the episode, "I think that he really wanted to kill me. I think that he wanted me dead." Jackie Vandagriff was hoping to become a nutritionist specialist one day, and her openness and desire for helping others were widely known in Grapevine, Texas. It is those exact traits that were sadly misused by Charles Bryant, who brutally murdered her, dismembered her body, and set it on fire. As Holland put it, "I think at the end of the day, she's in the wrong place at the wrong time, and she looked too much like his ex-girlfriend." Well, let us hope we find ourselves in all the right places. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel because that makes this video possible. And here is one more you will definitely enjoy.